This episode of Grief for Breakfast, we are talking about food, nourishment. What do you do when grief messes with your appetite? So even outside of grief, eating is kind of a fraught topic, right? We have strained or complicated relationships with food. We overeat, or we forget to eat, or we have issues with the size of our bodies and how much we're eating. We monitor that for ourselves. Other people monitor that stuff for us. Even outside of grief, food is a really touchy subject. When you add grief into the mix, grief is a form of stress. Stress impacts appetite. It impacts your interest in food. Whether you have too much interest in food because you're eating to help you manage your stress or your emotions, or your body shuts down in times of stress, shuts down in times of grief, that food just feels gross. Either way, either end of that spectrum, eating too much or not eating enough, both of those things are really, really common experiences of grief. Eating is such an intimate, daily, mundane thing. It makes sense that your appetite or your eating gets wonkified, especially when somebody dies, or there's a divorce or a breakup, or domestic situations change. Very often that process of cooking and eating is really intimate. It relies on the other. Sometimes we shop together, or we cook together, we make a meal together, we fight about who does the dishes and whose turn it is to cook. All of these come into how you feel about eating inside grief. For some people, the grocery store is one of the worst places to be. Seeing all of those seemingly intact families shopping together, even if they're arguing, seeing aisles that you never need to go down again because your kid died or your mom isn't alive anymore to enjoy that favorite kind of tea. Food is really intimate. It makes sense that it's a struggle point inside grief. So whether you are overeating or eating crap, eating junk food, food that doesn't make you feel very good because it's a way of coping with the gigantic, complex set of emotions, or you're on the other end of that food spectrum and you are not eating enough to sustain your body or your life, let's flip that. It's too easy to get stuck in proper eating or monitoring your weight or any of those things that are just sticky. Let's think about the fuel your body needs to survive what you have to survive. We literally want to think about tending the organism, this body, this physical form that needs to contain everything that's going on. What kind of fuel can I put into myself that will help me survive what I have to survive? This isn't about demonizing any kind of food. This is not morality for breakfast. That's not what we're talking about. We're really looking at what kinds of food, how much food makes me feel like I can survive this, and which things make me feel worse. We want to take it out of good food, bad food, and into what will feed this body? What will help me access or maintain whatever kind of emotional stability there is to claim here? This could be some sort of detective work on your part. I really wanted to have that entire bag of chips for breakfast, and for the last 4 days, I have only eaten the pizza crust that my kid has left behind, and I feel kind of crappy. I wonder if there's something else I could add to today's food that might lessen that crappy feeling. Do you hear the difference? Instead of saying, I'm doing such a bad job taking care of myself, I haven't eaten anything, like that is not helpful. Let's look at food as a source of fuel that helps you survive what you have to survive. Now, there is a reality here that maybe your appetite is gone. Maybe the thought of food is repulsive. That's okay. Let's look at what are some nutrient-dense, simple foods that I can keep down. Maybe this isn't the time for the Epicurean dream. Think about simple, nutrient-dense foods that will help your body contain what it needs to contain. That's going to look different for different people, different cultures, different food traditions, but as always, the less processed, usually the more nutrient-dense. Do your Googles. Figure out what works for your body, but really simplify things. Friends, nutrient-dense, simple foods that don't take a lot of effort on your part, but give your body the fuel that it needs to handle what is. So let's talk strategy. Again, I can get all poetic about these things, helping you understand why what's happening is happening, but what are we supposed to do about it? 1, naming the truth. I don't feel like eating. I don't feel like making the effort. Just normalizing for yourself that, hey, what I'm doing makes sense. I might want to do something different, but the effort feels like it's too much. Naming things is really important. Setting some achievable goals. I don't know. It seems kind of silly to feel like, here are 3 easy goals to make sure that it's easy to sort of reduce grief to sound bites. But when we're talking about survival, when we're talking about how do you literally get enough fuel into your body to keep living, after naming the fact that you don't really care that much or that the effort is too costly, it really does help to set some goals. Because I need to eat more is a huge, vast, vague goal. It's really hard to measure any progress. It's really hard to feel like you're having any effect on that. Small, easily achievable goals. What do I mean by small, easily achievable goals? Something that is almost too simple. That could look like, today I am going to go get a protein powder smoothie at the local shop so that I make sure that I get my essential protein and minerals. Great. That's not meeting all of your nutritional goals for the day, but if you are starting at 0, that is an amazing benchmark. Today I'm going to do one thing to add something to my day that gives my body at least a little bit of the fuel that it needs. You hear me say almost too easy goals. Don't set a goal that's like, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy everything and spend 3 hours cooking, because babe, you are not going to do that, most likely. Build your confidence, build your new relationship with food with small, easily achievable goals. Those goals are gonna be different depending on your starting place, so make it within reach for you. It could also be a goal of, I'm going to eat 1 fewer bag of chips today. That's a great goal. Small wins. Small wins are important. The effort that it takes to care for yourself just on an ordinary Tuesday, let alone going through an experience of grief, being alive is a lot sometimes. And also, when you're going through an experience of grief, you probably have friends, family, coworkers, somebody who really wants to be helpful. Helping you get the food you need is a great way to make them helpful. It's a really easy thing for them to do. So you could say things like, I know you want to be supportive of me. Sending me cat memes isn't super helpful, makes me feel a little bit dismissed. But you know what would be great is if you could get me a gift card to the grocery store or get me a membership for food delivery so that I don't have to think about it. Let the people who want to support you by helping you feed your body. Grocery cards, meal delivery service, any of that stuff. If it is within financial reach for you, use those cool meal delivery kits, grocery delivery, any of those things to lessen the drag on you. It's okay to lower that burden on yourself when you're going through a hard time. Anything that helps you access and actually eat the food that you need to support yourself through this time, use those supports. They are there. They are awesome. If it's not something you're going to do for yourself, allow the people who love you to do that for you. It's much better than unsolicited advice. You can't force your appetite to change, and we can't change the reality of grief. What we can do is take this issue of grief and food one meal at a time. Maybe start with breakfast.